Welcome to That Entrepreneur Life, a podcast about entrepreneurship that takes you from idea to launch and beyond. Each week, your hosts, Andrew Lees and Clint McPherson, discuss different business topics aimed at adding value to any entrepreneur's journey.
All right. Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of That Entrepreneur Life. I'm Andrew Lees, and I'm here with my co-host, Clint McPherson. What's going on, man?
Not much, my man. What is up, everybody? I'm excited to kick off another episode of That Entrepreneur Life, guys, but enough about me and Andrew like usual, right? Let's go ahead and kick this thing off by welcoming our special guest, Doron Lazarus, to the show. How you doing, brother?
Doing great, Clint. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Yeah, Doron, it's an honor to have you on the show today. Before we get into everything, I think it's important for you to introduce yourself and just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Thanks, Andrew. I'm originally from San Diego, California, studied at UCLA, living in the wonderful city of Chicago now, and I'm an executive sleep consultant. I help professionals who struggle getting the right amount of sleep, either because of insomnia or just overworking or whatever the situation is. Really try to dig in deep and help them get the rest they need to be very successful in whatever they're trying to accomplish.
That's
very
awesome,
cool,
man. That's pretty cool because sleep is something I've struggled with for the last several years. My background is from the military, right? A lot of going through PTSD and some of the injuries I sustained. And I've struggled with sleep, right? I've struggled with actually feeling pain while I'm sleeping on my shoulder, where I've had multiple surgeries from, getting injured in Afghanistan. And it's one of those things that sleep's a huge thing, brother. So I appreciate you in what you do to helping people figure it out, right?
Sure. Well, Clint, first of all, thank you for serving our country. These are this kind of some of the hidden stories of, we send troops into battle and we don't always hear the personal repercussions for many years to come about the struggles that people go through. So I am sorry that is a challenge. And, certainly my hat goes off to you and all the people in the armed forces that are able to do that. And you're right. I mean, sleep is something that it's so complex. There's so many layers going on in any one situation. There's very rarely one cause of a sleep disorder. Sometimes it's, really a bunch of things going on. And, certainly PTSD is something that we definitely keep in mind when we're speaking to people.
Definitely, man. No, like I said, man. But Doron, so with everything you said, the introduction you had was awesome, man. And like I said, I appreciate what you do. But as an entrepreneur in doing that and giving back to people that are struggling with sleep, can you take us back to where your journey started? You just mentioned UCLA. And what it is about entrepreneurship or what you currently do that you're actually passionate about, man?
Great question, Clint. Thanks for asking. So really my journey goes back to my own insomnia. That's really what got me passionate about sleep. I happened to be studying psychology and neuroscience at UCLA at the same time that I was struggling with my own sleep issues. And, even from the time I was a kid and a teenager, never a great sleeper, would always take me a long time to fall asleep, waking up easily, very prone to stress and all those kind of things. And then actually it was post-college in my 20s, and I actually hit a brick wall of sleep. I really couldn't sleep at all. I was on sleeping pills. I would be up the entire night if it wasn't for these pills. And I was really, I thought I had the knowledge to be able to get over this, and I didn't. I was going to doctors, I went to psychologists, and everyone was like giving me kind of like little tiny bits of information that were not really helping my situation. And the more I was getting frustrated, the more I was kind of convincing myself that, oh my gosh, like I'm a chronic insomniac. I'm never going to be able to sleep properly for the rest of my life, which if you've ever been there is a very, very scary and frustrating place to be. So I remember just one day I was in grad school. I took the day off of school, and I'm like, look, I have to get to the bottom. I can't keep playing this game. I can't keep running around to different specialists expecting someone else to try to fix my problem. I believe I have within myself the power to get to the root of this. And I spent a lot of time doing research. And I think really this is also where kind of the idea of meditation and mindfulness was kind of coming to the forefront of the Western world, becoming more popular, becoming more socially accepted. And I ended up kind of really putting together a package. It really involves a lot of different parts, whether it be meditation, sleep hygiene, personal exercise, mind over matter techniques, so really a whole conglomerate of things that really ended up helping me have my own transformation in terms of sleep. And that was really, such an eye-opening experience that it was literally like night and day, being able to go from hooked on sleeping pills, not being able to sleep naturally at all, to then within a few months, 30 seconds, my head hitting the pillow to be able to fall asleep and get a solid night's sleep the whole night through. And that was such an exciting and revolutionary thing for me. That's really kind of what sparked my interest in sleep. And I realized so many millions of people struggle with sleep, and so many millions of people can use help and really do need a customized treatment to be able to get to the bottom of their issue.
Yeah. And that's great, because it's not just, you can throw pills at something, but
Exactly.
and that's one thing, but man, you don't want to, as much as possible, you don't want to have to rely on that. And it must have been, like you said, such a freeing feeling to be able to control it without on your own, and to control your mindfulness and be able to figure out how to get really good sleep on your own, naturally.
Yeah. I know my experience, man, from, again, the military, their problem, or the way they solve all the problems for anybody that typically has whatever we have, right? Whatever we're going through, PTSD is pills issues, right? It's like, here's a pill, take it. Here's this medication,
Right.
take it. And dude, before you know it, man, you come back to your house and how they mail you all this stuff, or how you go to the pharmacy and get it, on post. It's just amazing. You start feeling like you're a drug dealer, or you're like somebody that you have your own pharmacy. And it's ridiculous, because the amount of pills they give you, you can't even really take. And it's just like, this is crazy.
Yeah.
And then you're so reliant on that, man. And then
that's
when I
a
went
scary thing. Yeah.
Exactly. And then when I went to a psychologist, it was like, hey, I told her I was struggling, right? They diagnosed me with insomnia and everything like that. And it was one of those things, was like, what are you not doing? The proper sleep hygiene is important. And a lot of people don't see that. We're in a technology-based age, right? And so all these bright lights and all these tablets and all these cell phones that we can't put down, it seems like that is a thing we're looking at right before we go to bed, right? And that's not a good thing. You're not letting your brain like reset and like actually wind down. You're sitting in bed watching TV. You're sitting in bed. Like, bed should be for, sleeping and sex. That's it, right? You shouldn't be in there like sitting there watching TV, because it's one of those things that, bro, I mean, okay, if that's what you do and that's what you like doing, great. But if it's something you do right before you go to bed, it's just like not a good thing. Bright lights, like from a clock, not good, because you're going to continue to naturally you're going to want to check it. You're going to open your eyes and you're like looking for the time. Oh my gosh. Right. So, and then never let your mind just settle down. So.
Yeah, definitely, Clint. You hit the nail on the head. There's a lot of issues with the pills. I think certainly from a military point of view, sometimes they don't have the time. Especially if you're overseas, you're in combat, they don't have the time to really kind of speak things out. They need a quick fix to be able to get you the sleep you need. But definitely, I have many stories of people that usually the pills lose potency, they lose efficacy. You're getting less and less sleep, less quality sleep, becoming more addicted to them. They have long-term negative effects. Just recently, a study came out with a link of cancer and long-term Ambien use and all sorts of stuff. It's definitely not a long-term fix. And yet, getting off of those pills back to natural sleep is not the easiest thing, especially once you've kind of got into that habit. And just as a small point on top of what you said, I think entrepreneurs especially tend to be very bright, driven, creative individuals that also don't have set hours. I mean, what entrepreneur doesn't work at night, doesn't bring their laptop home at night, and isn't doing work and pushing? And they're not working 9 to 5 jobs. They're trying to think outside the box. And so for them, especially, being able to have those kind of very healthy boundaries with technology, with their work, to be able to shut their mind down and get the sleep they need and invest in that, because that's really the single determining factor of whether your business is going to be successful or not. Are you cool, calm, and collected, intellectually clear, have a solid framework of emotional memory that you're able to process all the challenges that come into being an entrepreneur? Exactly. So you're right. Sleep is something that really affects a lot of us in a very big way.
Yeah, definitely. I actually just started. I do product development, design work. That's one of the things I do, and I just recently got a CAD program that I'm able to use on a tablet. So, which is the first time I've ever been able to do that. And I'm sitting there in bed last night trying to work through a design, and I'm like, the whole time, like, I shouldn't be doing this. I should just just kind of relax. It was getting towards midnight. And then I slept like a baby, I'm not gonna lie, but getting up this morning was a little rough, so I've got all that light slamming me in the face right before bed, and I kept me up late, kept my mind working, sort of not allowing it to just relax and slow down. So yeah, there really are so many potential distractions. And as, like you said, as entrepreneurs, we just, we want to just keep going, keep pushing, another hour, another two,
Doubt.
So,
Yeah.
Doron, you mentioned something about mindfulness, and I'm really interested about how that connects with sleep. You wrote a book called "Don't Mind If I Do," where you talk about mindfulness and how you can use it to live a more productive, fulfilled life with less stress. Which, that sounds amazing. It sounds like something all of us could use more of. Not the stress, but actually reducing it. So, can you share a little bit about how we can all achieve mindfulness on a daily basis?
Great question, Andrew. Thank you for that plug. As a background, my mind is a very anxious mind. It's moving a mile a minute. It's always got thoughts that are racing. So for me, I'm not one of these natural guys that just he's like this chilled out beach dude that just relaxes easily. That definitely wasn't me, and that was something that bred into my own insomnia. So when I kind of was writing about mindfulness, I was really writing to myself, and I wanted to share these ideas with others as I was developing them over the years. So definitely as a backdrop, you don't need to be kind of a naturally, spiritual or naturally relaxed person to get to mindfulness. I think quite the opposite. I think the tools that mindfulness teaches are really there for the very active, entrepreneurial, busy-minded people. And I think, the overall goal of the book and of this, system of wisdom in general is really just to slow down and live in the moment. Because so often, especially as an anxious brain, we're either worrying about the past. Oh my gosh, I bombed that meeting yesterday. What was going on? I can't believe I made the decision. I can't believe that person said this to me. We're living in the past, or we're living in the future. What's going to be with the conference tomorrow? What's going to be if I don't get that deal? What's going to be if I don't sleep well tonight? We're not living right here and now. And the technology that's in our life is designed to pull us out of the moment, to put us out of reality to somewhere else. Right? It's either taking us to a Netflix film or a social media channel or this or that, pinging, beeping, whatever it is. It's making us totally distracted from the real life situation we have right in front of us. Right? And mindfulness is really trying to remove all that. It's not necessarily trying to put any thoughts in your mind. It's not, the mindfulness doesn't have a goal within itself, but it's trying to declutter the mind to be able that you can be fully present in the moment. I mean, how often have we been on a phone conversation, right? And while we're talking this little lull of conversation, we start checking our emails, we start checking the sports scores, we start checking something else, because we're wired to never be fully present. And the other person on the line probably can pick up on the fact that we're like,
Exactly.
We're not there, right? We're not there. I mean, I'm married. I have 6 children, right? And my children know, right, whether I'm there, present, in to give them undivided attention, because kids need that. Like, are you paying attention to the picture that I'm drawing? They want you there at the moment. They don't want you checking your phone, checking your text messages, or even wondering about what's going to be tomorrow. Professionals want you there. Your family wants you there. Your business needs you focused on that task, which is in front of you at that moment. And so that's really what mindfulness is there to do. It's really to be able to have healthy boundaries with technology, to be able to live and appreciate the things that are going around right in front of us. You don't have to run to a mountain in Tibet to achieve mindfulness. It's right here, right now. It's being aware of your space, of your breathing, of your body, of your food, of your environment, of the people around you. So again, I could talk for a while. It's certainly something that really is a very powerful tool, and people are able to harness it.
Yeah, your points, they're just all on point, right? I mean, it's one of those things, and it's so funny because, again, we don't live in the present enough, right? Whether you're worrying about, for me as an entrepreneur, I'm worrying about how I'm going to complete this task, or how am I going to deliver this to the client, if we're behind schedule or whatever, in a timely manner to where, it doesn't affect my company's reputation or whatever. And you have kids, right? You have 6, I have 2. You have a wife. It's one of those things. The wife is sometimes just as needy as the kids, and they want to know you're present, and it's not a slight at the wife, but it's like women need attention, right? And then some guys are like that. And I think it's hard to kind of separate that, and you need to have that balance. If you can't find the balance, you're always going to struggle. Your marriage is going to struggle. Your relationships with your kids are going to struggle. And I know, there's plenty of successful entrepreneurs that don't have a great relationships with their family because they're out there and it's understanding I'm out here making money for us for you to have the good life. But I never want to get to that point. I want to be successful, but I also want to continue to have that good relationship with my wife, with my family. And it's just, and I want them to know that I'm present. I want them to know that I'm not working or staying behind or flying somewhere and missing a baseball game or missing this, if I can be there in the present, right? And I know there are some sacrifices that you have to make, but that is definitely not one of them. And I think living in the present is definitely the right way to look at it, because even starting the construction business that I recently started up, we just landed our first job, everything's coming quick. And it's crazy because you have this vision, you start it and you're like, how are we going to get business? And then business just falls in your lap, right? And it kind of shows like, live in the present. Don't worry about the future. Let's go ahead and take it step by step. Don't worry about how we're going to get business, right? I'm in the digital marketing world. I can generate business eventually, but let's put all the pieces together. Take it step by step, take the actions, put them in place, and trust the process. And I think when you trust the process and you're not looking and thinking about, oh my gosh, how are we going to get business? Why are we even doing this? Or, what is this process going to be like? And just embrace it. Embrace the point in time you're in. And then if you have to wait for the business license to come in, that's part of the process, dude. You can't stress out about that. You put the paperwork in, let the state or whoever touches it work it. And then next thing you know, when you officially get that stamp of approval, then you got to make it happen. So, I mean, it's like, I love it, man. The mindfulness thing and your response to that question was awesome.
Yeah, we all want to check things off our list all the time. And there's just certain things that, I was just thinking last night, I was kind of stressing out about something that I have to do, that I had to do today, might take till tomorrow or the next day. I don't know, because it's sort of like the process is a little convoluted to get this certain task done. And it involves the government. So it's going to be, especially now, it's going to be a lot slower, but, but I sort of started to stress about it. And then I realized, hey, as long as I keep moving it forward the best I can, eventually it'll get crossed off, but it's that, just being consistent and doing what I can, and then not worrying about it when I can't do anything about it. And I think that really helps. And Doron, what you said about living in every moment, I think that creates a real true balance where you're not just like, okay, I've carved out time for different things and I'm just, I'm going to work for 10 hours and I'm going to carve out a couple hours to be with my family or, to go exercise or something, but you're still thinking about everything else. If you, instead of just carving out the time, if you actually pay attention to each thing fully when you're doing it, and it's really hard to do, but I know for a fact that when I'm able to do that, that's when I'm the happiest. So I think you have to remember, that you have to remember that you're happiest at those moments, and continue to strive for that. So
100%. And even just to add on to that, I think whatever entrepreneurial activity you're involved with, I think your clients or your patients or your customers, whoever you're dealing with, they can pick up on the fact: are you fully present? Are you feeling desperate? Or are you cool, calm, and collected, right? Are you giving them your 100% attention to take care of their needs, not your own? And I think that's a very, there's almost this kind of cost-benefit analysis of the more that I'm put together myself, the more that I'm living in the moment and I'm settled, even though, there might be crazy things going on and deadlines and financial pressure and work pressure, whatever it is. But if my customers get the feeling that I am here and fully present for their needs, that's going to be someone that they want to invest in, that they want to take on, that they really want to work with. So I think it's both mindfulness and investment in our own life, in our family's life, in our personal life, in our health and our sleep. But it's also an investment, I believe, in the success of our business and winning those trusted relationships in the long term.
Absolutely.
Sure, man.
Yep.
So Doron, you also founded the Lazarus Insomnia Consulting, and you've pioneered what you call the slumber solution, which is pretty cool. What led you to start this company? And can you explain how your insomnia consulting services actually work?
Great question. So it was something that I was doing part-time, just kind of as a hobby almost. This was a passion I had. I knew this was a skill that I had, and I knew that there were millions of people that really needed this. I mean, insomnia is one of the epidemics that's going on in America. I mean, we definitely know of epidemics with the COVID crisis, but insomnia is so prevalent. I mean, 1 in 3 Americans, throughout the year will take some type of sleeping medication for lack of sleeping. I mean, we're talking about 100 million people, and about 9 to 10% of them are on these things chronically every night. I mean, we're talking about tens and tens of millions of people that are out there. And so it was something that I was just started dabbling in. And as the more I learned, and really to me, sleep is like an adventure. Every individual is so unique. Every person I speak to, I'm always learning more and trying to sharpen my skills and, gain intuition, because, people they're so deep. They're so complex. There's never one individual sleep case is exactly like the other. And so to me, it's a learning process. And the more that I was learning, the more I realized I really have a passion for it. I have a knack for it. I really love what I'm doing. I really feel empowered to be able to help people. So now we're just, we're in the process of scaling that up to a full-time operation. And in terms of how we work, there really is no cookie cutter solution. And that's why what we do, I feel, is very unique. We really take a lot of time to get to know people personally, understand who they are, what is their life like, what is their work like, what is their health like, what is their personality like, their lifestyle, what makes them tick, really, who are they? Because if you don't take the time to really get to know them, if you just sort of say like, shoot, the top 5 Google search words on how to cure insomnia at them, first of all, they're not going to listen to you. And second of all, you're really not going to get to the root of their issue. You really have to be able to hear them and craft a plan that's going to work for them, who they are, based on their dreams and fears and aspirations and lifestyle. So that's something that we really spend a lot of time with people. And even though, say, once we craft a plan, which involves, it could be involved adjustments of their work life, because, a success, it's like a vicious cycle. A successful day starts with a successful night. But in order to have a successful night, sometimes you have to adjust your whole day. I mean, I spoke to a guy a couple of weeks ago, he called me up. He's like, well, yeah, I'm feeling exhausted during the day. So I started speaking to him. The guy works 110 hours a week, right? Regularly. He has for the last 10 years, right? And he gets 4 hours of sleep. So he wants to know, like, why is he feeling exhausted? Why can't he get 4 hours of sleep? So you and I can laugh about that, but there's a real guy, a successful guy. What do you mean? What's the problem over here? So I can't fix his nighttime. I actually have to fix his daytime. Like, buddy, you can't work 110 hours a week, right? And expect to be well rested and productive in the day. So, it was a whole lifestyle change that we really, kind of recommended. I'm just using that as an example that it's a holistic system, and I also work very closely with every one of my clients. It's not like you book in this week for an hour, right, and we'll see you next week. I really I stay on top of people. We're usually in communication every day, making sure they're on the right path, they're feeling productive, the system's going well. If we need a pivot, we're able to make that adjustment until they're able to see the results that they need to.
That's awesome.
That's great. Yeah, and I'm sure like you said, you get better as you go along too, because you get all these different experiences, these different data points basically from people, and experiences that, you may not have realized something about, about one person, or, you may have a case where you're not really sure what to do until you've experienced a couple of those kind of cases. And then it just gets better and better. So you're able to help future clients in a more efficient, effective way, because you're like, oh yeah, I've dealt with this before. I had a client who had a similar issue, or, you have some experience that you can kind of draw on. So it's one of those things where you're constantly improving, constantly able to draw from past clients and experiences to help people. And then there may be certain situations that you really can't even imagine until you talk to somebody who has that situation. So I mean, that'd be definitely an interesting learning curve. And
could I jump in with one anecdote of exactly that? There was a fellow I spoke to also maybe a couple of weeks ago now. Really, I mean, I spent time speaking to this fellow on the phone, and the guy had one of the worst cases of insomnia I've ever heard. I mean, for the last 20 years, I mean, he's maybe in his 40s now, from his 20s, he's on, you can't imagine how many sleeping pills he needs to take every night, alcohol and maybe like 4 or 5 different sleeping pills every night just to get 3 or 4 hours of sleep, right? Every night for the last 20 years. I was like, wow. And I was trying to poke and prod, and he did this, and he tried everything, like literally everything. I was like, oh my gosh. Wow. I told the guy towards the end of our conversation, like, I'm gonna have to think about this. I really don't know. Like, it's not a simple solution. Until at the end, it kind of came out like as a side tangent of a conversation. He's like, well, but if I travel, I actually sleep fine. He said it got to the point, if he goes down the road 20 minutes to the Holiday Inn and books in there, he can fall asleep no problem. I was like, you don't have insomnia. So then we started to, well, what's going on in your house? What kind of trauma do you have associated with your house that you have this negative? You don't have insomnia. You have some deeper issue that we need to get to the root of. And like that for me, that was like a flooring experience. I've never met someone like that with that kind of type. But you're right, Andrew. It's a learning curve. People are complex. Sleep is almost the culmination of all of our psychology coming out at night, erupting at night like a volcano. Certainly there's a lot that lies in the depths, and we really try to get to know people to be able to uncover that.
Yeah, exactly. And we already kind of talked about this a little bit before, but as entrepreneurs, especially, I think we take sleep for granted. And we sort of, as hardworking entrepreneur business owners, we're constantly pushing, and there's actually a saying, I'll sleep when I'm dead. It's almost like down upon if you are, the more you sleep. If you can operate on 3 or 4 hours of sleep and you can work the rest of the time, it's almost like a badge of honor or something. As as a business owner, get it done, and that saying, I'll sleep when I'm dead. I've definitely thought that before. Especially like in my 20s, I'm like, I don't need sleep now. I'm just going to work my butt off. But what do you say to that?
It's definitely, it really is a stereotype that's amongst, kind of top executive crowds of like, sleeps for whips, if you really want to achieve the workplace. So I would say that you're actually doing your business life a great disservice. Adriana Huffington, she actually speaks a lot about sleep. So she used to be one of those people who used to sleep just a few hours a night, she's a top, anchor on one of the news shows. And she ended up fainting from exhaustion, and her head hit the desk in the middle of work, and she got a concussion. And that was her wake up call. They're like, hey, you got to change something. And she changed her whole life around. Now she's a huge sleep advocate. And I think for a lot of people, you don't want to get there. You don't want to learn the hard way. Right. Look at the research, right? If you're doing a job that requires minimal mental investment, so fine, you want to be sleep deprived, right? And you're, sorting mail in the mailroom. Okay, you mess up, put some of this mail in the wrong mailbox. Whatever, life will go on. But if you're making high level decisions, if you're dealing, as many entrepreneurs and executives are, in the world of ambiguous, where the world, the path is not, nobody wrote your job description. You're not exactly sure what the next step's going to be, how you're going to grow your company, how you're going to deal with challenging people, how you're going to get over these roadblocks. You have to be able to be calm. You have to be able to have a good memory. You have to be able to have clarity. You have to be able to have emotional composure, to be able to think creatively and out of the box and deal with very challenging situations. So it depends. Do you want to be sleep deprived when you're making those decisions? Would you want to get into an airplane, right? If your pilot had 2-3 hours of sleep, well, why would I want to get into your company? Why would I want to invest in your IPO, right? If I know the CEO is a sleep-deprived person that's going to be making impulsive, rash, unthought out decisions. The greatest investment you can make in the success of your business is getting a solid night's sleep. If you think you're Superman, I'm not saying there aren't. There are unique individuals, right, that are able to survive on very little sleep. I've met these people, and they're like Superman, right? Literally, they're running around 2-3 hours of sleep, and they're playing tennis, and they're running around, they're running marathons, they're running companies. Great, right? If you're in doubt whether you're one of those people, I suggest you err on the side of caution, right? And chances are you need a little bit more sleep. And I even wrote an article recently. I don't necessarily think everyone needs 8 hours of sleep. Right. I think that is a little bit myth. You have to know your own sleep cycle. And as we get a little bit older, we tend to need less sleep. Right. So it doesn't have to be a full 8 hours, but you have to know your body type. If you're feeling irritable, if you're feeling exhausted, if your eyes are burning, if you at 2 p.m. you can't keep your eyes open, those are all signs that you're exhausted and you're not getting enough sleep. You really have to be sensitive to your body, to be sensitive to your mind, and figure out for yourself what is the solution and not shortchange your sleep, because ultimately you're shortchanging everything else as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's also an investment. And even if your business isn't something that is super critical, like if you're not in healthcare, or you're not doing something where people's livelihoods are on the line, if you're really even if it's not critical, you still you can still be held back without the right amount of sleep and without the right mental capacity. I've definitely learned over the years. In my 20s, I really had that mentality of I'll sleep when I die. I gotta I'm gonna really hit this as hard as I can, and that's fine. Hit it, being aggressive and being striking while the iron's hot kind of thing is great. But I've really realized that it is the entrepreneurial journey, and business ownership is a marathon, not a sprint. And if you're really in it for the long haul, which I think to be very successful, you really kind of have to be. You've really got to take care of yourself. And I've definitely learned the hard way, where I'll put in a ton of hours in a week and feel very drained. And by Friday, I'm practically useless, and I can't even, if I have some time on the weekend, I can't do any work, even an hour or two. But when I'm more rested, and when, I can kind of space things out more, I can get, maybe I only work 8 hours in a day, but those 8 hours are going to be real solid and make good decisions. And I feel like that actually you end up getting more done. You can get your business a little further along faster if you're being healthy.
Oh, for sure. I know sometimes for me, I feel like even my longer days of work, I get less done, because your attention span will eventually wander. Right. So it's maybe I work 10 hours this day, or whatever it is, some 12, 14 hours. And the next thing you know, you're just like, man, what am I even doing right now? I would be more effective maybe working 4 or 5 hours and actually taking some time for personal development, taking time to rest, taking time to be mindful about the present situation. And again, it seems like the 14, 16-hour days, whatever it is, you're just like, what did I actually accomplish? It's other than, I felt like I was doing something, and I actually did get a lot done, but it was more of a not, it's almost like you start jumping around, and okay, I can do a little bit of this, I can do a little bit of that, and set myself up for success in the future. But then it's it's muddy water.
You're like, what did I do?
It's muddy water. So for sure.
Yeah.
Clint, I would definitely agree with both you and Andrew. It's really about quality, not quantity. If you take a look at very successful people, just thinking of Warren Buffett, for example. Warren Buffett spends most of his day reading, right? He spends most of his day thinking, learning, analyzing, processing. And then when he goes to the boardroom, when he goes to the corporate table, he's coming in, with a solid perspective on him. He's not frazzled. He's not frantically making, rash decisions. And I think, for a lot of entrepreneurs, that's a kind of a challenging hurdle to get over, right? To be able to have the confidence in ourselves, to be able to delegate, to be able to outsource, to be able to really maximize our time, to be able to do what we do best, and to be able to let go of everything else and not feel like we have to be involved with all of that busy work. So it definitely, that's the name of the game. And with technology today, it's unbelievable what you can do and what you can outsource, and, how you can really, free things up with automation to be able to focus on that, which needs your 100% attention, the higher level skills, the decision-making skills. And you definitely want to be well rested, to be able to do that.
Absolutely.
Man, I love that you bring that point up, because me and Andrew and our guests, we've brought that up multiple times on the show. That's a reoccurring theme, right? In everything you do. But as you talk about that, and as you've been through your entrepreneurial journey, and from the highs and the lows that you've experienced throughout your life, what has been the most difficult thing about being an entrepreneur, man?
I think it's the showing up to work every day and just not having that clarity. It's sometimes almost, kind of, it's a bittersweet. It's sometimes great to have that freedom. You don't have a boss, you can covet at whatever time you want. But at the end of the day, you have to chart your own territory. it can get a little bit lonely sometimes, especially if you're the decision maker of your company. Obviously important to have mentors and to have confidants, but ultimately it's your decision, it's your company, it's your moving forward. So kind of, being that lone man without necessarily having that scripted approach to things can be frustrating. It's sometimes it's great when you make that breakthrough and you can take ownership of that. It's incredibly empowering. But sometimes you're there, you're like, what am I supposed to do next? We hit a brick wall, not sure how to move things forward, and that's those days can be challenging.
Love it. Definitely agree. Yeah, I mean, usually at night I'll try and think about, even though I know it feels like I have 100 things to do the next day, I'll try and just think about what are the top 2 or 3 things that I want to do in the morning. Because if I don't do that, and it's like a 30-second exercise, but if I don't do that, I find that I wake up and I get some tea or some coffee or whatever. I'm sitting there and I'm still a little groggy, and I'm doing work, but I'm not doing the things that I really need to do. So I'm not very efficient. And then all of a sudden it's like 9 or 10 o'clock and I'm like, oh, what the heck did I do? Or I get kind of scrambled to get something done at the last minute, which I should have been doing hours before. So yeah, that clarity is really, and like really thinking about what you have to do on a daily basis can be pretty challenging, and trying to prioritize things too. But yeah, I agree that that is tough, especially being a solopreneur and being by yourself, and it does get lonely. Sometimes that's great, the loneliness, because you're just like, you can just block everything out, especially like on a Saturday, you don't have emails rolling in and you can just kind of get something done and not have any distractions. But on the other hand, yeah, it definitely, there's some days where you're looking out the window like, man, it's, I need a friend. I need somebody, need some entrepreneurial.
You're waving to people. Just not even looking at you and you're waving.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. So it's just, but I totally agree with that. I think that can be a gift and a curse for sure.
Sure. 100%. It's definitely a great challenge, but I think the key is really to try to be our own boss. And the same way that, if we had somebody else working for us, or, secretary or whatever it is, we would say, okay, got to come in here. These are your tasks. I don't want you to get busy on Facebook. Don't get busy with your personal emails or shopping on Amazon or whatever. Like your work for me. So to be able to delegate ourselves. I know one of my mentors, Sam, is a sheet you fill out, like what are my top 3 tasks I want to accomplish today? What is my schedule going to look like? Because sometimes just our natural inclination is to do the easiest things. Let me just go check social media. Let me get back to my text messages, whatever. And those are the easy things. We don't want to do the hard work of getting on the phone with strangers or making tough decisions or doing complex tasks. Our mind will prevent us from doing those things. But to really be able to buckle down and have that discipline, and it's hard, with the technology all right in front of us, but to be able to set those things in stone and to give ourselves breaks and say, look, if we accomplish these tasks, we're going to take a break, we're going to get an ice cream, we're going to do whatever flows your boat.
Right.
But really to be able to be your own boss and to be on top of yourself to really get those things done. And ultimately, you're not going to be able to please everyone. You're not going to you might not get back to every phone call and email and text message. But ultimately, the greatest gift you can give yourself, your company, your own family is to be successful. And for that, it requires focus. And so you really have to try to prioritize and make sure those things get done.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And you can use mindfulness to get there too. I think that, that really helps. So Doron, as we wrap up this episode, what is one piece of advice that you could give our listeners to help them on their entrepreneurial journey?
I would definitely say that whenever you hit a brick wall, whenever you hit a situation that you feel that sort of it can't be overcome, your back's against the wall, you feel there's no hope, that is exactly the point that you need to dig in deep and find your own salvation and to really push forward. And I know every time in my life that I've had those very challenging points, whether it was my own sleep or other situations in my life, where you're like, oh my gosh, like how am I going to push forward from this? At that point, not only did I survive, but if you have the strength and you have the fortitude, that's actually where your revolution happens. It pushes you out of your comfort zone that you weren't supposed to be mediocre. You were supposed to be great. And it takes that shake up in order to be able to do. So for those entrepreneurs out there, don't lose hope. don't lose resolve, don't lose motivation, keep going, keep plugging away. And the greater the challenge, the more power you have to overcome to pivot and transform your life for greatness. So that's what I would like to share with the audience.
I love that. Yeah, we all need that motivation.
Without a doubt. I mean, that was awesome, dude. It's a perfect way to wrap up this episode, right? So from the both of us, Doron, we want to thank you for taking the time out of your day to join us and adding value to what we're doing on our podcast, brother.
Thank you, Clint and Andrew. Thank you both for having me. I really appreciate what you guys are doing.
Absolutely. Yeah, guys. Well, thank you so much for listening to That Entrepreneur Life. To learn more about what Doron is working on, check out his website is at lazarusconsulting.com. It's LAZARUS consulting, and it's actually .org. If you like what you heard today, make sure to subscribe to our podcast on iTunes or any other major podcast directory. You can also find us on all the socials and on our website at thatentrepreneurlife.com.
And with that said, guys, we also want to quickly give a special shout out to our family and friends, like always, to include all of our listeners, our followers, and subscribers. If you find value in our show, please consider making a small donation to show your support. Even just a few dollars helps us keep moving things forward and brings value to your entrepreneurial journey. Thanks for continuing to support what we do as entrepreneurs, guys. And don't forget to join us next week for another episode of That Entrepreneur Life.
Thanks for listening to That Entrepreneur Life podcast. Be sure to visit thatentrepreneurlife.com to join the conversation, access our show notes, and discover our fantastic bonus content. Don't forget to join us next week for another episode as we continue to add value. Until next time.